anime. Once a niche art form, this animation style has grown increasingly popular over the years. If you are a fan of anime, you may be familiar with that feeling when someone asks what you're into, and anime flashes through your mind. But something inside you hesitates, the quiet fear that loving this medium makes you different. Welcome back to Evolving the Narrative. In this video, we'll be diving into the actual psychology behind why certain people like anime. Why some of us, especially neurodivergent minds, find something in anime that normal life never quite delivers. By the end, you'll understand why your connection to anime isn't escapism or avoidance. It's your mind and soul finding exactly what it needs. The truth may surprise you. Let's get into it. Let's begin with a neurological layer most people never talk about. For autistic and ADHD minds, anime can go beyond just being visually interesting. It becomes soothing. The animation itself becomes a form of stimming, a way to regulate your nervous system through repetitive, pleasurable sensory input. You might not think of watching as stimming, but when you re-watch that transformation sequence for the 10th time, see the teasing and romance between two people, or lose yourself in the story about a girl trapped in the internet, that's your body finding what it needs. Anime offers what researchers call visual tactility. It's found in the way characters move, the shifting of armor, or slow pans over fantastical landscapes. These visual, predictable patterns act like a touchable comfort. Your nervous system gets the feedback it's craving, and you can calm yourself or heighten yourself in a controlled, safe way. And those clear emotional expressions, they make feelings easier and clearer to read than the messy, ambiguous expressions of real life. If you've ever struggled to decode someone's face or understand social cues, anime offers a language you can actually learn, from blushing when embarrassed to story cues like a sad piano track. This is why some autistic viewers describe anime as more accessible than live action. It's not that you can't read real people. It's that real people are complex and don't come with subtitles or emotion markers. But anime does, and it's cozy because of it. Every feeling gets a visual signature, and every shift in mood comes with musical cues and framing that tells you exactly what to feel in that scene. In this way, you're finding a version of social experience that doesn't exhaust you. It becomes much more accessible than real life and provides something not found in your day-to-day. Not to mention the exciting fantasy of a world with giant titans or nine-tailed foxes. And anime conventions, dance events, idol concerts, those spaces turn stimming into collective movement, glow stick routines, choreography everyone knows, rhythm games, behaviors that might get you shamed elsewhere, jumping, flapping, shouting lyrics, are celebrated. You can unmask, move freely, and be loud. This creates a space where you finally get to feel and exist without apology. Anime communities also support something beneficial for neurodivergent individuals: unmasking. You can drop the exhausting performance of appearing neurotypical. They offer clear rules and shared intense interests. Online spaces where info dumping is affection and enthusiasm isn't too much. You feel less alone because you're surrounded by people who get you. The truth is, you've been building connection all along, just in a language the neurotypical world doesn't always recognize as valid. In this way, you've just been searching for connection that doesn't require you to shrink or pretend. But here's another reason why anime is so engrossing. You know that feeling when you're 3 episodes deep and suddenly it's 2 a.m., when you forgot to eat because the adventure of your favorite characters consumed you entirely. Well, it turns out that's something called flow. Flow is what happens when challenge and skill are equally in balance. Your brain sees clear goals, such as find out the backstory of a 1,000-year-old elf, solve the murder mystery, or see if your favorite character confesses. Then feedback comes fast through cliffhangers and reveals. Before you know it, time blurs, self-consciousness drops away, and you're completely absorbed. Anime is perfectly structured for this and delivers on it often. Each episode gives you a mini-world with its own rules, its own style. Once you learn the visual language, the art style cues, the character tropes, the pacing, you slip into that world effortlessly. Your everyday worries fade, and you're locked in to see the adventures of a gutsy lone swordsman or a gun-wielding vampire. And here's what matters. As you watch more, you build skills, even if only behind the scenes. You learn to read subtitles faster, track layered plots, and decode emotional beats. Your brain naturally seeks shows that push you slightly beyond where you are now, emotionally or psychologically. Not so much that you're lost, but not so easy that you're bored. This is your attention finding a channel where it can actually focus. For some people, especially those who can filter distractions easily, flow comes naturally. They narrow their focus and sink deep into almost anything. But for others, attention scatters. There are too many inputs and too much chaos. And that's where anime does something specific. The exaggerated expressions, the repeated visual patterns, the stable, predictable structure. For neurodivergent viewers, this reduces sensory chaos just enough to allow focused immersion. For neurotypical viewers, it offers a high level of eye candy that normal media rarely provides. But flow is only one part of the equation. Anime fandom tends to create shared rituals, scheduled releases, and binge sessions, not to mention robust discussion threads and live reactions. These turn watching into a structured activity with clear goals. Catch up before the finale, avoid spoilers, theorize with others about the true plot. It's not just entertainment. It's a repeated, meaningful experience that your brain recognizes as safe and absorbing. There's something profound happening here that goes beyond simple distraction. When you're in flow with a series, emotionally attached to its characters, you're not just passing time. You're rehearsing ways of being, testing responses to conflict, watching characters navigate loss, betrayal, growth, and you're mapping those patterns onto your own inner landscape. Flow becomes a kind of psychological laboratory, a place where you can explore resilience without real-world consequences, where you can witness transformation and start believing it's possible for you too. A place, perhaps, where you can dare to dream outside the confines of the sobering flavor of reality. That's not avoidance. Instead, your psyche is gathering tools for seeing life in a new light, to consider what it would be like to be a hero, a warrior of justice, or someone who can achieve what they set their mind to. And this next part is really important, even though it might feel uncomfortable to admit for some. You might love certain characters so deeply it feels like they're real, like the bond matters even though you understand, logically, that they can't respond, that they are not real. That's called a parasocial relationship. And it's not weak or weird. It's deeply human. These one-sided connections start simple. You're drawn to a character's personality, their competence, their moral code. But over time, something deeper happens. You see your own values in them, your own struggles. You mentally place parts of yourself into their story, and they become role models for how you want to be. When you're anxious or low, you might turn to a specific character or episode. You imagine how they would handle your situation. You rewatch key scenes like therapy or rehearsal. And here's the thing. It works. Even fictional figures can help regulate your emotions, reframe problems, or make you feel less alone. This isn't escapism, but interpersonal emotion regulation. Your brain doesn't fully distinguish between fictional closeness and real support when the emotional impact is genuine. This is why we can feel so much emotion or relatability for the characters portrayed in film or television. Neo from The Matrix, Oscar from Schindler's List, or Dexter. Well, maybe not that last one. You're also using fantasy to safely try on other lives, to experience emotions you can't access in your current reality, to imagine futures that feel impossible right now. Fans describe living a different life through anime, finding refuge in worlds untouched by reality's flaws. That's not checking out. That's rehearsing hope in the only safe space available. When the real world feels too sharp, too unforgiving, these fictional relationships become a kind of emotional sanctuary. You can practice vulnerability with characters who won't judge you. You can witness friendship, loyalty, sacrifice, redemption, and start believing those things exist beyond the screen. And these bonds spill into real relationships. Talking about favorite characters deepens friendships. It gives you ready-made topics when socializing feels hard. You use character dynamics as benchmarks for what you want or what you want to avoid in romance and connection. All of a sudden, you find that your loyalty for friends is mirrored in a story about a group of pirates searching for the ultimate treasure. Sometimes that raises your standards. Sometimes it highlights painful gaps between fiction and reality. But it also gives you language for desires you didn't know how to name, for boundaries you didn't know you could set, for versions of yourself you're still learning to become or wish to one day. Here's the dual nature. For many, parasocial relationships offer comfort, companionship, a constant source of positivity that supports self-reflection and resilience. When you watch characters bounce back from hardship, you start believing you can too. You internalize their courage, their persistence, their refusal to give up even when everything feels impossible. That means something. But for some, especially those with anxious attachment and weak real-life support, intense parasocial bonds can increase distress when a character disappears or a series ends. The loss feels real because the connection was real. The grief isn't less valid just because the relationship was one-sided. You may have experienced this grief after a great show ends, and you find yourself thinking, "What now?" That doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're using the tools you have to meet needs that aren't being met elsewhere. Research shows that people who feel marginalized, LGBTQ+ adolescents, autistic individuals, anyone with limited supportive peers, often use media figures to fill relational gaps. Characters become more than entertainment. They're companions, wives, husbands, protective figures who recognize you in ways the real world doesn't. There's a quiet bravery in admitting you need this, in letting fictional people matter to you when real people have been unsafe, in finding mirrors of yourself in animated faces when flesh and blood mirrors have been unkind. That is more normal than you might think. On a larger scale, shared love for characters creates global community, an imagined collective where you belong, where your intensity is matched, where conventions, fan art, and online discussions validate your feelings and build group support. You're participating in a vast web of people who also found meaning in these stories. And that web holds you, even when you don't realize it, even when you think you're alone in your room at 2 a.m. watching one more episode. So again, you're not weird for liking anime. You're building connection in the only place that's felt safe so far. And at the end of the day, that's the most human thing you could do. Here's what I want you to take with you. Anime may not be a substitute for real connection. However, it can be preparation for it. It's teaching you emotional language, building your capacity for focus, regulating your nervous system, and giving you characters who model resilience when real life hasn't offered you that yet. As with anything, moderation is important, but those who watch anime aren't running from the world. Instead, they are gathering tools to meet it, whatever that means for them. Next time someone questions why you care so much about something just animated, you'll know why. It gives you the space to enjoy emotions and companionship without shame. Or, at the very least, it's just fun to watch a well-crafted story with exciting characters. I think that's worth all the care in the world. Thank you for joining me on this exploration into the psychology of people who like anime. If this resonated, please share one anime that changed your life in the comments below, and subscribe to get weekly psychology content designed to help you transform your life. Until next time.